Hey guys, it's Generalkidd here. How's everyone doing today? So, by now, you've all probably seen a lot of footage and screenshots of Halo Infinite, maybe even played it yourself. I think we can all agree that this game looks beautiful, and has certainly come a long way since that infamous E3 demo last year. But fortunately, that extra year of delay has really helped this game shine visually, and truly look like a next-gen Halo game. But by the time Halo Infinite comes out later this December, it will have been in development for over 6 years now. It's not like no game has ever been in development for that long before, of course, but whenever people talk about Halo Infinite's development time, a lot of people often try to explain it by saying that the first few years of development were because 343 was busy making that brand new Slipspace Engine from the ground up, from scratch, and that takes a lot of time. Well, they're not wrong about that. Making a brand new engine from scratch does indeed take a lot of development time and resources. But is Halo Infinite really using a brand new engine? Well, you see, it's actually very rare and unusual for a well-established, long-running game franchise to just trash their current engine and start over from scratch. Most game devs instead just opt to improve and iterate on the current engine, making it better for the next game. In fact, it's very common for devs to even reuse assets from the previous game to save time and resources. This is all very common practice, and there's nothing wrong with it either. The Call of Duty series, for example, has always used the same game engine from the very beginning, and continues to use massively upgraded versions to this day. Things have clearly changed a lot though from the original Call of Duty game to more modern COD games. Also, the upcoming God of War Ragnarok game, for example, people notice that it's using the same animations from the previous God of War game, and some people try to make a big deal out of that, but it really isn't. It makes a lot of sense to reuse certain assets, and doesn't make sense to reinvent the wheel, usually. So, that brings us back to Halo Infinite. Is it a completely brand new engine, built from the ground up? The answer to that is no. Visually speaking, the game has huge improvements over Halo 5. It's a night and day difference, really. But under the hood, it's more or less the same old Halo engine, also known as the Blam engine, that we've all come to know and love. Now, before we get into the details, I just want to make it very clear that this isn't meant to be some kind of 343 busted or 343 exposed video. In fact, it's actually not even some secret that's being revealed here, which we'll talk about later. But just keep in mind that this video is simply meant to be informative and to clear up misconceptions about the Slipspace engine. So, how can we tell though? How do we know it's still the same old Halo engine, but just improved? Well, before we get into the more technical evidence, there's already a lot of small things you can notice in-game that are uniquely Halo. In other words, things you see that just make you go, ah, yup, good old Halo. So, what kind of small things are we talking about then? Well, some bugs people have encountered already in the Halo Infinite flights that have popped up, they've been in pretty much almost every Halo game. One of the most famous bugs are biped ragdoll glitches, which are hilarious things such as dead bodies getting stretched out like crazy, and that's been in virtually every Halo game in some shape or form, no pun intended, since Halo 1. Even other glitches, like dead bodies getting stuck in scenery, also still happens in Halo Infinite. And then we also have the glitch where looking down at the ground in Halo Infinite and turning around shows the inside of your first-person body. This was a common occurrence in the older Halo games, where whenever the game was lagging or freezing a lot, and you look straight down and turn around, you actually see the inside of your body. And of course, more famously, we also have melee canceling in Halo Infinite again, which allows for classic Halo button combos like BXB or BYB, a very OP trick that you can do that first originated from Halo 2 in the form of BXR. Now, all of these classic Halo glitches and tricks still exist in Halo Infinite. Now, you may be thinking, most of these could happen in any game, and some often do occur in other games. Well, you are absolutely right. A lot of these things do frequently happen throughout all the Halo games, but they're not exclusive to Halo. They're just initial hints and clues that Halo Infinite is still using some of the classic Halo engine. So to get a better understanding of why Halo Infinite isn't actually using the original Halo engine, let's take a look at some of the more technical pieces of evidence. The first is the developer debug menu found in Halo games. In debug versions of Halo, versions with developer cheats enabled for quick and easy testing, there's often a debug or cheat menu available that lets you activate certain cheats in game, like invincibility or infinite ammo. In virtually every Halo game, this menu has appeared virtually unchanged as far as appearances go. The same still applies to Halo Infinite. In a recent developer video posted by 343, the one where they announced that campaign co-op and Forge was getting delayed, they showed a few scenes of their devs working on the game. If you look closely at their screens, you can see that the classic Halo debug menu is still there, with more or less the same appearance. That makes sense too, because when you're reusing the same engine again, but upgrading it, something non-user facing like a debug menu isn't going to get changed much in appearance. It's just there for developers to use, so it doesn't need to look pretty or anything. Leaving it the same as it's always been for over a decade just makes the most sense. A debug menu like that is also quite unique to the Halo Blam engine as well. Now you could say they just simply remade the debug menu in the brand new Slipspace engine and then purposefully made it look the same as the old ones. But the debug menu is only the tip of the iceberg. So let's take a quick look at the file structure of Halo Infinite on PC. Here's the main folder. Pay close attention to the maps folder and the deploy folder here. The maps folder is mostly empty except for a fonts folder. The deploy folder is where all the game's maps are now stored. And on top of that, instead of .map files like you might be used to on MCC games, these maps are in .module files or RTX module files. Now the RTX label has nothing to do with NVIDIA's RTX ray tracing, by the way. But yeah, so all this looks like a new setup compared to MCC, right? That's correct when compared to MCC. Now let's take a look at Halo 5's file structure. Here's the main folder. Notice the same deploy and maps folder. The maps folder is once again mostly empty, while the deploy folder is where Halo 5 keeps its maps. And you can see here, Halo 5 maps are once again RTX.module files as well. Exactly the same file structure and formats as Halo Infinite, or rather Halo Infinite's file structure and formats are exactly the same as Halo 5's. If you're wondering what's the deal with the mostly empty maps folder in both games, well, the maps folder is actually something left over from Halo 1 through 4. Back in those games, map files were actually stored as .map files and stored, put into the maps folder. But starting with Halo 5, things changed and new formats were used. However, some remnants of the older setup still remained, and we of course all know that Halo 5 is also built off the Halo 4 engine, with even some Halo 4 assets still left over in the game as well. Now, I'd like to go much deeper into the files, but we'd be crossing into data mining territory, and right now that's just something I don't want to do before the game launches due to potential for leaks. But what I will say is that the Halo series, since Halo 1, has always used a tag-based system for all its in-game objects, including weapons, vehicles, characters, scenery, and so on. That continues to remain true for Halo Infinite. If you were to open a tag in Halo Infinite, it would most likely look like an identical, it would look identical in format and setup as tags in Halo 1 through 5. Tags are just the way the Halo engine has always worked. It's obviously been improved each game with new features and capabilities added, but it will always remain familiar across each Halo game. Now, the last and biggest piece of evidence is actually none other than 343 themselves, actually. In the December 2018 social stream, they had some people talk about the Halo Infinite Slipspace Engine, and whether there was anything left from previous Halo games in it. That's where the devs actually clarified that the Slipspace Engine wasn't built from scratch, but rather it was an overhaul of the original Halo engine, or the current Halo engine really. They pretty much made the same point that it wouldn't make sense to throw everything out and start over from scratch. I'll play that clip now and let you guys watch that part of the interview, and then we'll come back afterwards and talk about it a bit.
Burger, I have seen some additional questions about the Slipspace engine. Just in general, is it carrying forward anything pre-existing from the prior games, or was it a complete from scratch rebuild?
Yeah, there's still some foundations. It wasn't a complete and total rebuild. It was a teardown of certain systems that didn't allow us to kind of scale out to the places that we wanted to be. But there's definitely still code and foundation that came from. But it's for an engineer who was on 5, but not on, and then they came and saw this, it would be a pretty foreign system, set of systems. So
Gotcha.
One of the things we do though is we like to take the existing kind of stuff that we've built for Halo 5, and we like to bring it online inside of Slipspace and all the new technology that we've built, so that we can ensure that we're kind of building things and that we aren't just starting over from scratch, where it's like, I think the fear that a lot of people have at times is that it's not going to feel anything like a Halo game, and we definitely want to make sure that's not the case. So we kind of bring stuff online, and we kind of iterate, and we make sure that our experiences kind of evolve and kind of work from that technology evolution versus kind of just starting completely off in some scratch place.
Gotcha.
So, as you heard in that video, the foundation of the Slipspace engine is still the original Halo Blam engine at its core. This was done mainly to conserve resources rather than reinvent the wheel, and also to make sure Halo Infinite still has a Halo feel to it. Chris Lee, the former head of Halo Infinite, even said they wanted to keep some of the popular Halo 5 features and experiences active into Halo Infinite, effectively saying that the Slipspace engine is sort of a Halo 5 Plus engine, though it's certainly more like a Halo 5 plus engine in many ways with how many improvements it has. Alright, so by now I hope it's pretty clear to you that Halo Infinite at its core is still using the same engine that has for decades powered all the Halo games we've come to know and love. The Slipspace engine, while visually impressive, is still the Halo engine, but with massive overhauls and improvements. Maybe at one point 343 was actually considering building Halo Infinite off a completely different engine. I remember at one point where there were even rumors going around that Halo Infinite was going to be built off the Unreal Engine. In fact, one popular rumor from a while back was that Halo Infinite was being developed on a new engine or a different engine, but something happened during development, or they were having issues, so they decided to reset development and migrate whatever they had back to the Halo engine, and from there improve it a lot. Those are of course just rumors, so take those with a grain of salt. But anyways, the fact that Halo Infinite is still using the previous Halo engine isn't anything bad. It's actually a good thing, in fact. Not having to reinvent the wheel saves devs a lot of time and resources, and keeps things familiar enough for devs and players alike. Plus, as we've seen with the other game franchises, using the same engine never means the game or engine itself can't be improved a lot. It's not always necessary to have to create a brand new engine from scratch just to be able to improve your game for the next generation of gaming. It's totally possible, and in fact very common, for devs to just iterate and improve on pre-existing tech. And to the credit of many studios out there, a lot of great games have resulted from improvements made over decades to game engines that originated from the 90s. So don't worry, Halo Infinite being on the Halo engine is nothing negative. Anyways, like I said, the purpose of this is to clear up the misconception that the Slipspace engine is a brand new, built from scratch engine. To summarize one more time, it's basically a rebrand of a vastly improved and overhauled Halo 5 engine. But by going that route, there's a lot of advantages to that over building a brand new engine from the ground up. And of course, it's not an unusual practice either. It's actually a very common practice. So hopefully I've helped clear that misconception up and given you a little bit of insight into how the Halo engine, also known as the Blam engine, works. So as always, if you guys enjoyed this video and found it to be interesting, then make sure to leave a like. I definitely like to hear your thoughts in the comments too, so if there's anything else you'd like me to tackle as well, just let me know in the comments down below. But aside from that, make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all next time. Bye everyone!